Well, hi and welcome. I'm Rayna, the host today, and I am so excited to have Julie Klassen, author Julie Klassen, with us today. Thank you for taking your time and joining us today, Julie.
I'm very happy to be here, Rayna. Thank you for asking me.
You bet. And you've had a couple books come out since I've talked to you last in 2018. You were up in Detroit Lakes, and that was so fun to see you at the library. But last fall, you had a book come out called The Bridge to Belle Island, and I really enjoyed that one. It was a great mystery. I was up quite a few late nights trying to figure out who'd done it. I could not put it down. So can you tell the viewers about that book?
I would be happy to. So this is it. This is The Bridge to Belle Island. It is a standalone mystery. Most of my books are standalone. I do have one series, but it is a standalone mystery. And it is about a lawyer, Benjamin Booker, who is investigating the death of an old friend. Now, evidence takes him to a remote island on the Thames River called Belle Island. And there, I found it really interesting because he deals with some anxiety, and there, the woman who lives on the island has not left it for 10 years. But there's so much evidence pointing against her that she becomes the main suspect. When a second death brings her admirer, friends, and family under suspicion, secrets comes to light, and she realizes her island sanctuary will never be the same. So it's, you've read my other books, Rayna, before. You know that I have drama, I have romance, and this has that as well, but this one is definitely more of kind of a classic whodunit at the same time, which I really enjoyed writing. It was kind of a brain puzzle a little bit to have all the people on the island and kind of my unofficial sleuth. I didn't really have detectives or police as we think of them today in the early 1800s. So it was fun to have my amateur sleuth who trying to figure it out while he's falling in love with the main suspect at the same time. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, I literally was like reading at 1 a.m. going, "Curse you, Julie." And I was I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you figure it out? Did you know early or did you not?
So I was like, okay, I think it's this person. And then I'd read and like, no, I think it's this person. So I was like waffling back and forth. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was great when I finally realized who it was. But yeah, no, it was great.
That's what I was hoping. And of course, I'm fairly new at this, but I like to read, and Agatha Christie and other detective authors, and watch those kinds of, Poirot and those kinds of shows. So it was really fun to do that, where of course part of the genre is you make several people seem apparently guilty, and then hopefully eventually the reader will figure it out about, not too soon, but a little bit ahead of the other characters. So well done. Thank you.
Well done to you. So I was so lucky to get to go down to your book party release in December last year. And so you were talking about how when you were researching for this book that you learned about is it the Thames? How do you say that river?
Thames.
The Thames River, and how there are islands in the river and that people would live on them. So I thought that was very interesting. And I'm wondering if there's any other cool things that you found out while you've been researching your books.
That's a great question. I have to say, you probably have heard me say this before, but I am not by nature a nonfiction reader. But since becoming a fiction writer, I've had to do so much nonfiction reading for my research. And I really like that. I like finding out interesting historical tidbits or facts or practices and kind of weaving them into the books. So yeah, for this one, I've been to England, 7 or 8 times now. I know I've lost count. But I had never heard that there were all these islands on the Thames. And the Thames is a river that goes kind of all the way across, from London, kind of almost all the way across England. And yeah, there's like 80 islands. And many of them are inhabited, some are not. Famous people live on some of them, like George Clooney. Some you can only reach by boat. Some have, a bridge access. And so I loved reading about the history of those, and I like putting that into the books. But I've learned a lot of things over the years. I'll just try to think of a few, examples. But, because I've written about so many different professions, as you know, I've written about a wet nurse, I've written about an apothecary, I've written about servants in that time period. So I have learned a lot of things. The medical practices back then, make me feel glad that I, live now. In my researching my new book, which we'll probably talk about later, learning about how few people knew how to swim, even though shipwrecks were so common. And I've been told that a lot of people there still don't know how to swim. A lot of the local fishermen in England still don't know how to swim, which just kind of blows my mind. I've enjoyed learning about the different traditions and Christmas traditions that they have there, which are different from ours. And of course, you may know this, there's one fact that is commented on the most in all my books. I'm guessing you could probably guess it, but in my very first book, there's a little fact that is still the most commented on, and that was that I learned that goats were used to nurse babies with syphilis in that time period. And I still have people email me now and again going, is that really true? Or did you make that up? And that was really true. So I enjoy learning new things all the time. So thank you. Good question.
Yeah, and that's what I love about reading. It's kind of like I'm sneaking in education at the same time as entertainment. So
exactly.
And so speaking of Christmas, you mentioned some things you've learned about Christmas. You have a new book out now, and it's something that you've never done before. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I was asked to write a Christmas novella, and it's called An Ivy Hill Christmas, and it's based in the same village, Ivy Hill, that I mentioned. I have one series, a 3-book series called Tales from Ivy Hill. My editors asked me to write a Christmas novella, which I've never written a Christmas novella before, so I thought that would be kind of fun. I asked them, well, do you want it to be part of the series so that someone would have to have read all 3 books, or do you want it to be a standalone, so just, a separate story, different characters, but set in the same village? And their answer was, both. Okay, so I hope I've done my job well, and thankfully I have very talented editors, but if I've done my job right, you can enjoy the book whether you've ever read any of the series or not. And I certainly think there are, nods to the other characters. Some of the characters from the series do appear in sort of cameo roles, but the main characters of the story are new. So even if you haven't read it, you can enjoy it. So that was a lot of fun to research, and especially today it's snowing outside. It was fun to research and to write. The book is about Richard Brockwell, who's sort of the prodigal son of the most prominent family in Ivy Hill. And he hasn't been home for years. But this year, his mother is putting her foot down. You need to come home for Christmas or she's cutting the purse strings. So he reluctantly goes. He lives in London, kind of this confirmed bachelor. But he goes home for Christmas planning, I'm just going to go there for the 12 days of Christmas, and then I'm back on a coach, bound for London, going to continue my bachelor life. Well, as you can imagine, Christmas in the country holds several surprises for Richard, including a young woman he knew from his past who is far more appealing than he recalled. So it's a little bit of a kind of redeeming the curmudgeon, in this case, a handsome, youngish curmudgeon. So it has romance and I think some fun humor. And it was truly a joy to write. And I don't know, my books, even though it's a novella, I mean, it's probably 2/3 of the length of most novels because I can't seem to write anything short. So I hope you find it satisfying when you get a chance to read it. So it was a lot of fun to write.
That is awesome. And I feel dumb for asking this question, but I don't know what a novella is.
Oh, no, that's not a dumb question at all. So a novella is just a shorter novel. Sometimes they're very short. Sometimes they are, if you get a very inexpensive ebook on Kindle or something, might be just 20,000 words. I know words don't necessarily mean anything to everybody that doesn't know what 20,000 words is. But novellas range from just 20,000 word to about 40,000 words usually. Sometimes you can buy a book that, will say a collection of 3 or 4, stories. Those are usually, novellas, shorter, complete but shorter works that are put together in one book. So, of course, being an overachiever, mine is over 60-some thousand, which is not quite, it's too long for an official novella, but that's okay.
Well,
You're right.
I'm glad it's longer. I'm excited to read that one.
Yeah, and they put it out in hardcover and large print and everything. So, and they also did an audio version, which I wasn't sure with the novella if they would, but they did. And they used the same wonderful, talented British actress who has done the whole Ivy Hill series. She's wonderful. So she also narrated an Ivy Hill Christmas. So I haven't heard that yet, but I'm really looking forward to hearing it.
Awesome. No, I've listened to the Ivy Hill series on audiobook, and she does a great job.
Good. Glad you agree. I think so too.
Yes. And then a bonus for all of us fans, 2 books in 1 year. You have another one coming out here in December. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, well, I'm such a bozo. The year I have 2 books. It's coronavirus and downs, and I can't have a book signing to save my life. Oh, well. I did just hear, just a few days ago that at least someone has gotten some report that people are reading more. I've heard things, publishers have been kind of waiting, holding their breath, because obviously bookstores are struggling, which is really sad. But, are people reading more, or are they not? Are they just all watching all the Netflix all the time or whatever? But at least now the numbers are coming in that people are reading. So, because, they're home. So hopefully that will be good, even though other things haven't been as much fun. But yes, I do have another book coming out. I can't show you a cover because I don't have it yet, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's called A Castaway in Cornwall. So it's set in one of my favorite parts of England. Of course, I love almost everything about England, but it's set on that wonderful windswept coast in the southwest of England. If anyone is a Poldark fan, that's the Cornwall area. Or if you're a Daphne du Maurier reader, a lot of her books were set there as well. So I loved going there. I also had, if you read The Tutor's Daughter, that was also set in Cornwall. But there's something about the coast and the cliffs and the waves and lots of shipwrecks. So this is a story of a young woman, Laura Calloway, who's living there. She's not from there. She's kind of a transplant. Her parents died under mysterious circumstances, and she's lived there and grown up there. But she's never really fit in. And then there's a shipwreck, and a mysterious man is washed ashore, and she helps rescue him and kind of help him with heal his wounds, and starts falling for him. But there's something going on there. His accent is a little different. He's obviously hiding something. And so she knows he's probably not who he appears to be. So there's that intrigue component to it as well, which was a lot of fun to write. And she has to make that decision. Do I help him anyway? Even though I don't know everything about him yet, as she's fighting that attraction to him as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've been kind of holding my breath. And just yesterday, my editors reported that Publishers Weekly, which is that's the main publication for libraries and bookstores to decide what books to buy. And they gave it a very positive review. So that's always something authors, we kind of wait. Will they like it, or will they not? So that's a relief. So I hope you will enjoy it as well. And you get your copy soon, December 1st.
Yes, I look forward to that. I just saw a little blurb about it. And I'm like, sold.